What's up, guys? Welcome back to Gatmeyer Flies. Today we're going to be tying for you a stimulator. Alright, so the stimulator is an awesome dry fly. You can tie it to be, a real kind of stonefly imitation or even kind of a hopper imitation. It's a great attractor pattern, and it's definitely one that I carry in the box. It floats good and the fish eat it. It's also super fun to tie. So in the hook, or in the vise, the hook I have is a Firehole 718, size 8. You can tie these big, small, however you want. And I'm gonna start the thread just a little north of halfway up the hook shank here. And I'm going to make just a nice little thread base for our tail to stick to. And this doesn't have to be perfectly smooth right now. Just something to tie our tail against. And then we need some hair. So for the tail section of the hair, we're gonna grab kind of a slim piece here, small amount, and we're just gonna clean all the fuzzies and short hairs out. And then we're gonna stack it. So let's give that a good stack. And there we go. Nice little stacked bunch. And I'm gonna measure that out about how long I want it to go. So something like that's good. And we can kind of flare all those butts, but one thing that I always kind of do is just keep nice loose wraps there in the back to keep kind of a nice bunch together tail. I don't want it to flare too crazy. Not that that would be a bad thing necessarily. And then I'll just kind of tie all this down, roll through those butt ends, make sure this is all nicely secured. And got a chunk of my thread there. Let's see if we can cut that out. There we go. Let's get that out of there. There we go. So now, next material I want to tie in is ribbing. So I'm gonna rib it with some 6X tippet. Some 6X tippet. You could use wire. I actually really like ribbing flies with tippet these days. You don't see it as much. Doesn't weigh as much. And it's pretty strong ribbing material, so I'll just take that all the way back down to my tail there. And let's see if we can kind of bundle this tail back together. There we go. I'm digging that. Now we need our next material. So that was the one thing I forgot to grab. Let's get it. We're gonna do a yellow and orange version of the stimmy. So for the body, I'm gonna use Unifloss in yellow. And I'm gonna pull off a nice long piece of this, because we're gonna kind of layer it, and we'll catch that in there. Tie that all the way back, just like so. then I'll smooth out my thread a little. Just kind of doesn't need to be perfectly smooth because we're going to do a couple layers of this floss. Let's get this out of our way. There we go. So that floss, we'll just start tying in like so, and then we'll come back over top. And we're just kind of filling in the gaps on this one. And there we go. Now on this last run, I want to kind of smooth the floss out so that we get kind of a nice smooth body for our hackle to go over. Something kind of like that will do. And then we'll tie that off with a couple few wraps here, maybe tie back over it a little. And there we go. So we're starting to build our body. And on this back section here, I like to undersize the hackle a little bit. That's probably too much. Here we go. This one will do, I think. So on this one, I don't really want it quite to the hook gap. Yeah, that's better. Because I don't want it impeding its ability to hook fish. So we'll tie this in. And I always kind of tie it in facing the way I want it to go. And I'll bend it. Nope. Let's retie. There we go. And we'll give it kind of a X wrap or two here. And then we can actually tie that stem down on the shank and come back. Now we'll just start palmering this back over the body. Just like that. And we'll catch our hackle and then just palmer our ribbing forward. You can kind of wiggle it through if you want. Looks like I caught a couple of my tail fibers with this. That's okay. I don't think the fish will care too much. We'll tie that off with a few tight wraps. Yeesh. Let's get that. Let's get this out of here. This wants to be a pain in the butt. And I don't really like the way those look, so I'm just gonna cut them off. It's not really ideal, but that's all right. And we'll tie that down nice and tight. Oops, cut that out. All right, now we've got a nice little body here, and we're gonna make some wraps all the way to the hook eye and back, just so we have our thread base continuing on, and now we need more hair for our wing. So come in, cut out a little bit bigger of a clump this time of hair, and we'll do the same thing. We'll clean all that nasty stuff out of there that we don't want. All the fuzzy and short stuff. And you could use a comb. I always just kind of pick it out with my fingers. There we go. It's good enough for me. Get our stacker set up here. And give it a stack. All right. So now we've got our nicely stacked hair, and this is elk hair. A lot of people use deer hair. And we're gonna measure out our wing to go probably just a little longer than the body. We'll take 2 good wraps and we'll pull tight, a few more nice tight wraps, just like so. And then we'll just pop through a few times over those butts, and that will really lock those in. And then we're just gonna come in here with our scissors, and I always just kind of come in and trim them all as close as possible. Something like that would be just fine. Yeah, I like it. Now, I tied this wing in a little bit up from the back of that body. And the reason that I did that is because I want to come back over the wing, maybe, if I can, and loosely wrap over top of it, and that will bring it back looking really kind of nice. And then I can kind of start wrapping over top of this stuff. I don't know what's going on with this spool of thread, but there you go. That kind of brings that all back into a nice bundle. Now, for our front hackle, I want Coachman brown. In this case, I actually have grizzly dyed Coachman brown. Let's see if we can find it. I probably should have had it out before. But we're gonna go grizzly dyed Coachman, and we're gonna want definitely, whoops, that came loose from the pelt. What we're gonna want is for it to be a little bit bigger than the other, but not crazy bigger, because we're still gonna put a thorax on this thing. That will do nicely. I like that. So strip some of this back, and we'll get it tied in up here by our wing. Just like so. Now, you could use more floss for this spot if you wanted, but I actually really like to use dubbing because I feel like the dubbing soaks up a little bit more floatant than the floss does. And so I'm actually going to use kind of a buggier dubbing here. This is Snowshoe Rabbit Foot dubbing in orange. I'm going to pull me out a little clump. I just feel like it actually floats a little bit better if we have some dubbing to absorb floating somewhere on this body. So I'll kind of start out down here because I want to start kind of flattening out the front of this a little bit, and then we'll kind of coat this a bit all the way back to the rest of that body. I'm gonna set that down for a second. Kind of up over top of that wing. Jeez, got a little bit of a runny nose. Been working out in the yard all day, so excuse me for that. And then we'll just bring it up. So now we can start the hackle on this. And some people really pack the hackle in here, but I like that dubbing to show through. So I'll just palmer it all the way up, just like so. Capture it with a couple turns here, and then we can get rid of that. Boom. So there we go. And now we're just gonna make a nice clean little orange hot spot head there. I trapped one little hackle fiber. Hop in here and snip that out. And now it's just time to whip finish. So we'll just give it a 4-turn whip finish. And that is your stimulator. Got a bent elk hair in there, that's okay. And that's your stimmy. That is a floaty bug. Catches them. So you can add rubber legs to these, give it a little bit more hoppery of kind of a profile if you want. Good attractor, it'll hold up a little dropper. And I'm just adding a little bit of Solarez bone dry to the head there for some durability so things don't come apart on us. But yeah, that there is a stimulator. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. So see ya.